You alright? Kid, are you alright?
I'm stuck!
Superhero movies are literally all over the place nowadays, as are their TV shows, and not just the big brands like DC Comics and Marvel, but other publishers have gotten in on the action as well. But no matter how many more come out in the coming years, there are going to be a set of films that are held to the highest of standards and praise. One of those films being Logan. This was the final Wolverine movie from Hugh Jackman, and he put all he had into it in various ways. There won't be a sequel in the traditional sense, but some still want to see more Jackman as Wolverine, or just more Wolverine in general. So allow us to show you 6 things that you could expect in Logan 2. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 6, the importance of Logan. Okay, to be clear right off the bat, yes, we know whatever happens next, there won't be a Logan 2, but that's not the point here. We're talking about the future of the Logan Wolverine character, and for many, that doesn't start with the X-Men franchise per se, it starts with Logan. Because while it's true that Hugh Jackman made his mark on Wolverine in the original X-Men trilogy, enough to not just wow fans but get his own spin-off movies, it was Logan that many feel was the true peak of what he did. Because this movie took place in the Old Man Logan style of story, where an older and dying Wolverine is forced to face his own mortality while also trying to do one last good thing in his life in regards to saving a young girl who is technically his daughter in Laura, aka X-23. This was also an R-rated tale of Wolverine, something that Jackman had wanted for a long time, and the film did not hold back on the emotion, the rawness of things, and yes, the death of Logan himself. The film did incredibly well at the box office, and both fans and critics raved about the film for good reason. So anything that happens now is going to be compared to Logan, and for good reason. Number 5, X-23. The character of X-23 has been popular in both comics and media for some time now, but what fans many times forget is that she wasn't born in the comics, but in an animated series not unlike a certain Jester in DC Comics, specifically X-Men Evolution. Ever since then, she's been in the comics and has been a prominent member of the X-Men, to the extent that she is going to be a part of the new X-Men team being born this summer in the Reign of X line, and many are thrilled when she was being brought into Logan via Dafne Keen. Keen shined in the role and absolutely helped make Logan a more impactful film, and in fact, the true Logan 2 was in many people's eyes going to be a sequel focusing on X-Men and how she was going to try and live her life without her father. Now, a spinoff seemed very likely, but when Disney bought Fox and brought the X-Men franchise back under their control, the notion of a solo X-23 movie died. Yes, they are still doing Deadpool 3, but that is a different thing. Anyway, with those doors now closed, the question now moves to number 4, the Marvel Cinematic Universe X-Men. If you didn't know, the reason why the various Marvel characters from the X-Men to Spider-Man to Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, and more had been with other studios, it's quite simple. You see, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Marvel Comics was dying. It took multiple acts to salvage them, and that included selling the media rights to studios like Fox and Sony. Fox took the X-Men and Fantastic Four and immediately went to work making those movies, and Sony brought out Spider-Man in a huge way via the Sam Raimi films. Their success was what led to the creation of Marvel Studios and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and ever since they had their own success, they desired to bring everything back into the fold, and they've slowly gotten that done outside of Spider-Man, which is a bit of a tricky situation at best. But with buying out 21st Century Fox, they have the rights to the X-Men once again, and now the question remains, what are they going to do with them? Kevin Feige, head of Marvel Studios, has noted that they haven't forgotten about the X-Men and that they are coming. There's even rumors that the title of their first film will be The Mutants, which would be an interesting title, but pretty accurate overall. The real question about the X-Men that fans are wondering is how they'll be infused into the MCU as a whole, because do recall that the point of mutants is that they've been around in various ways for hundreds of years, with a big turning point for most being World War II, and yet the MCU, due in part to their bitterness towards Fox owning their properties, went out of their way to denounce that mutants existed at all, including altering both Wanda and Pietro Maximoff in both the comics and the MCU so that they were no longer the children of Magneto, and that all the powered people in their universe have a non-mutation way of having their abilities. So how are they going to adjust for the X-Men when they arrive? It's hard to say, but it'll be interesting regardless. Number 3, Wolverine and the X-Men. Now props to those who got that reference, by the way. The other main question outside of how they'll get brought into the MCU is who they will be bringing to the squad when they arrive. The X-Men franchise at Fox had brought in many of the main stars of the X-Men universe for their films, with varying amounts of success like Professor Xavier, Cyclops, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Rogue, and more. And yes, Wolverine, obviously. The MCU as a whole hasn't been afraid to mess with the mythology if it helps them achieve their goal and tell certain stories. Just look at Ultron, Thanos, Wanda Pietro, Captain Marvel, and more to showcase that. So with the mutants on the way, who might make the roster? Well, Wolverine might seem like an obvious pick, but there might be a slight hesitation with that due to Hugh Jackman. Not that he's coming back, he does insist he is retired, but rather the fact that if they screw up the casting of Logan Wolverine with whoever they bring into the MCU, they could face some serious backlash. What's more, the X-Men line from Fox very much had Wolverine be a focus over other mainline characters like Cyclops, who even died in the third film and had a limited role in the first two. It's possible that the MCU will want to flesh out the X-Men characters on screen in ways that the Fox films didn't, and thus limit the exposure of Wolverine so that they don't deal with a fan complaining about the actor not being as good as Hugh Jackman or not being Hugh Jackman at all. It's a bit of a sticky situation, as they would say. Number 2, why do fans still want Hugh Jackman as Wolverine? Now that is a fascinating question with two very simple answers. You see, Hugh Jackman wasn't a major star when he first got cast as Wolverine. He was an Australian actor known for his musical talent on Broadway more than anything. For real, go ahead and look it up. But when he became Wolverine, people were amazed by how well he played the character, which is why he blew up in terms of popularity and movie TV appearances. He was a great Logan, and fans that aren't that old to forget him as of yet. And what's more, while the X-Men line of films did him well in many avenues, the fans never got to see him in true Wolverine costume. They teased it in a deleted scene from The Wolverine, but he never donned the outfit in live action. The MCU is very literally their last chance of seeing Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine costume, and for them, that's something that should happen. Whether it will or won't is still very much up in the air, but they're definitely hoping it happens. Number 1, Logan stories. Regardless of who is going to be playing Logan Wolverine in the MCU, the question will then go to the stories that they have the actor do. We've already had multiple takes on the origin story of Logan via the X-Men films and spin-offs. We've seen him go to Japan and meet Mariko, and of course we've had Old Man Logan. So what else is there? Well, plenty, ironically. The X-Men line of comics is full of Wolverine stories to tell. Plus, we could just see him in a line of stories with him being a true supporting member of the X-Men and not a leading man like he was before, offering a different dynamic of things as a whole. Until Marvel Studios makes their announcement, we'll all be left in the shadows. But make no mistake, there is a lot of potential here. No matter where they take Logan, fans are going to watch and ask for more. So what do you think? What do you think of the look at what the future of the Wolverine character might hold? Are you holding on to hope that Hugh Jackman comes out of retirement to give fans what they want? Or do you think the MCU would be wise to go and cast someone new and fresh to start a new Wolverine legacy? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we will see you next time on the channel.